what is your sense of what he is going to demand in terms of cuts, or would this person be open to some sort of continuing resolution or continuation of the budget, given like the fact that the Democrats hold the Senate and the presidency?
Yeah, we don't really know, which is so crazy. The actual substantive issues that were supposed to be resolved by getting rid of McCarthy obviously haven't been resolved, and he has said nothing that would indicate that there's a consensus position on this. I think, his backers, the fact that he came out of the Republican Study Committee, would indicate that he's going to push for cuts. He's not going to be someone who's going to say, let's just, prolong this. Let's do a clean resolution. Let's keep this rolling. I think it's, if you're reading the tea leaves, it's they're going to be pushing for big cuts again. That didn't work, 3 weeks ago. Why is it going to work now? Obviously none of these things have ultimately been resolved. And I don't know that we have any indication other than the fact that they would like to see bigger cuts that we're going to have any consensus position on any of this stuff. I mean, it's so fascinating to me because what we replace McCarthy with someone who is going to be forced to do the same thing McCarthy did, and certainly is in a much weaker position to do it. Like, this is not someone who has counted votes. He's never had a committee chairmanship. He's never had a leadership position of any real substance. Like, I don't know. Is this guy going to be able to do something McCarthy couldn't do? McCarthy had had a lot of money. That's I think is an important part of this too.
That was my next question, because the way McCarthy rose to power was the fact that he could hand out checks. He was one of the best fundraisers in the Republican Party, being from California, liberal, blue, degenerate state, but that has a lot of wealthy people in it, and they were writing checks. And that was part of how he rose to power. You write about this in Slate. His fundraising, I mean, he does not have a fundraising apparatus. McCarthy was a great fundraiser for the Republicans. Scalise, who was next up, also raises a good amount of money for the Republican Party. And there is not that track record here for Mike Johnson. Is that a concern for some of the Republicans? We know they love their big money checks.
Right. I mean, for me, it's just confounding. It's like, McCarthy, right, is an incredible fundraiser for all of his foibles and his drawbacks and his inabilities. Like, he brought in a ton of money and made Republicans really competitive in a lot of these races because of that. If you're looking at Mike Johnson, if you just look at the Louisiana delegation right there, Steve Scalise is from there. He was the second in command. He couldn't get the job. And then you have to say, like, Garrett Graves from Louisiana is also probably higher ranking just in terms of Republicans from Louisiana in the House. And Mike Johnson is maybe third in that state. I mean, that's like saying, like, the third best player, like the Indiana Pacers, is now the face of basketball. It's like, it's such a crazy move. And right, he's raised $500,000 this cycle. It's like, where's the fundraising going to come from? That's a huge part of the operation here. Like, we're not going to be moving legislation in this Congress. Like, that's just not part of the deal with the divided the Democratic Senate. So, I mean, if you're a Republican, what's the long-term vision here? I don't think that, like, the creationist museum money is going to float the entire party. And you even just look at some of his the other industries in Louisiana, like the oil and gas industry has said, like, he's not one of their guys. Like, he's from Shreveport. He's not, it's like you go down the list and it's like, where is this money going to come from? It's totally unclear to me. And I think that is actually, even more so than the, sort of the day one bluster and the craziness of all of this, is like the long-term impact of this doesn't seem to be very well thought out.
Absolutely not. You mentioned his stance on no-fault divorce. Can you expand on that? Because seems to be kind of a thing for the manosphere types. Steven Crowder also very against no-fault divorce for obvious reasons. But it indicates that he's, I don't know, pretty controlling and resentful of women. So that is of interest to me as a woman.
To the right of John Milton on this?
Yeah. Concerning. Very concerning.
Yeah, and really, I think, again, like a true believer in this stuff. This is not someone who is a Johnny come lately to hating no-fault divorce. This is someone who has a lifelong record of fitting that in between his, trenchant opposition to abortion and gay sex and gay marriage and all these other sort of signs of social degeneracy in the far right evangelical world. So it's an interesting position to hold and to defend nationally. Going to be, I think, a real challenge to make that one persuasive to the majority of Americans.
For people that do not know, no-fault divorce just essentially allows people to leave a marriage without having to give a reason, and it's put in place really to allow women often to escape some abusive marriages, and it's helpful in that regard. Many states have adopted it, and so it's quite retrograde to be in opposition to that kind of thing. I guess lastly here, I mean, the thing that was interesting about the last few weeks on this topic is that Republicans really showed what their true priorities were here. Emmer, his nomination sunk because conservative Republicans did not like his vote on the legislation that Biden signed into law protecting gay marriage from the legislative perspective, right? Not just from what the Supreme Court did, which is a good thing. We needed to do that with abortion, and we were unable to do so. But Emmer voted for it. Emmer voted in favor of the gay protection of gay marriage, same-sex marriage, I should say, and interracial marriage as well. This is not the ideology of somebody like Johnson. So in terms of protecting trans people and gay people, this seems concerning, especially if the Republicans, God forbid, take back the Senate and take back the presidency in 2024. And the map for the Democrats on the Senate side is not looking as good as it had in previous years. This could be a leadership that is very hostile to both gay people and trans people as well.
Right. I mean, in a lot of ways, right, the agenda, the Republican agenda is very short. Like, if we're ultimately talking about what they would do if they took the presidency, the House, and the Senate, which, is not inconceivable at all. Like, they've got most everything they've ever dreamed of, right? So they might cut taxes again on the wealthy and big corporations, but probably they're going to go after these like minority groups, and that's queer and trans people. That's immigrants. It's the sort of persecution of minority populations is going to be very, very high on the list because there isn't that much on the list, period. And I think that is a real concern because that stuff is not sort of just it's not just advertising or whatever. It's not just messaging. It's like that's a core part of the agenda at this point because they've won everything else. And I think that is actually genuinely a very sort of fearful proposition in a lot of ways.
All right. Well, let's hope their dysfunction continues to get in their own way. The Republicans are good at that as well. But Alex Sammon, politics writer at Slate, the piece is called "Somehow There's Finally a New Speaker of the House." And everybody check out the long form piece that Alex wrote in Harper's called "Forbidden Fruit: The Anti-Avocado Militias of..." You're going to have to pronounce that word for me.
Michoacán, yeah.
Michoacán. Yeah. We will put the link to both of these pieces in the description wherever you're listening to or watching this. Thanks so much, Alex. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well.